Welcome to the third and final video. Okay. I know we would talk about refactoring our code and what that would maybe look like. And I sort of got ahead of myself in the last video. So we're going to maybe iterate on this a little bit. We're going to add in a loop to show us the idea of why we could do this. And that'll hopefully allow us to understand the idea of refactoring and why we use functions and why we're trying to keep our code nice and clean. So let's say this is part of a dance. Okay, so this whole block of code, let's duplicate it. Oops, that didn't work. Let's try it this way. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to duplicate my start block a couple times. You're not going to do this. I just wanted to get the code out here to show you sort of what we can do. So let's say this is part of a dance, and I'm going to call it the cha-cha loop because I can't think of another dance off the top of my head right now. And this robot is going to turn its eyes blue, then red, play a sound, and sleep. And then it's going to repeat it and go blue, red, sound, sleep, blue, red, sound, sleep. And you can imagine this like being more complex. You could add some more of your personality into the robot, have it do something fancy. But this is the start of our dance. Okay. We don't want to keep repeating these blocks over and over again. Because if we make a mistake, and let's say we accidentally play sound twice, we have to read through all these lines of code to figure out what our mistake is. And where we're trying to keep a repeating pattern, this would be a great example to use a loop. So I'm going to get rid of this code that I threw in there for the purposes of our instruction. And we're going to go into loops and grab the repeat block. Drag it out, plop it on the start block, and you'll notice it says repeat 4 times, do something. Well, let's drag our code inside that block and go ahead and test that robot out. Okay, so we haven't modified our code very much. We've just added a repeat. So go ahead, pause the video, hit play in the bottom left, and see what your robot does. All right, hopefully what you saw your robot do was go through that function call, those 4 functions 4 times in a row. So blue eyes, red eyes, play a sound, sleep. Blue eyes, red eyes, play a sound, sleep. Over and over, 4 times in a row. And every time this on start block is started, so whenever you power up your robot, this immediately happens. Okay, so we're going to repeat this function 4 times. And using my mouse, I can sort of trace the idea of how this code is going to work. We're going to start our robot up. We're going to enter our loop. And when we enter our loop, we're going to enter our first block, which is turn eyes blue. So my code reaches out, does a call out or a callback, calls that function, and we read through this code and we set our eyes blue and we wait and we hit the bottom of the blue block, which sends us back here to our function call. And then we move on to our next function, turn eyes red. So the computer calls out, does the turn eyes red block, and then returns and does the next one, play sound. Jumps out, plays the sound, comes back, and then moves on to sleep, which jumps out, puts the robot to sleep, and jumps back. When I get to the bottom, you'll notice it has this little arrow, and that little arrow or little bump attaches to the loop, so it repeats back up. When that happens, the computer just subtracts 1 from 4, and now it's 3, and it'll do that until it reaches 0, at which point the loop will stop. So we've just used functions and loops to make a very basic dance, okay? Just using lights and sound. If our robot could actually move, if it had some arms, we could program some servos to move too and make it look a little more like a dance. Hopefully in this video series, these last few videos, you've understood the importance of functions, of using these expressions of outputs to tell us where our code is, and the idea of loops to repeat sequences of events that are common. Okay, so we're building a pattern. In the next video, I'm going to show you a really quick extension, just to have a little fun with variables. So when we start variables next week, you have an idea of sort of what to expect.